Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well and taking care, and welcome to this brand new Doctor Who video on the channel. For today's video, I thought I would do a video speculating on some theories for the very mysterious character Ruby Sunday's neighbour, Mrs. Flood, because we saw in the intriguing post-credit scene for the church on Ruby Road that it doesn't look like Ruby's neighbour, Mrs. Flood, is just her neighbour after all, because we saw in the scene that she mysteriously mentioned that she knows what a TARDIS is. And since then, lots of Doctor Who fans have been speculating away over on social media exactly who Mrs. Flood could be. So I thought I would go through some of my theories, starting from the unlikeliest option to the most likeliest options in my opinion. Before that, just want to say, as always, if you're a huge Doctor Who fan like myself and you are super excited for the future, the bright future with Doctor Who Season 1, I still have to get used to calling it Season 1, not Series 14, but yeah, if you're excited, then a subscribe to the channel would be hugely appreciated. I am planning lots of videos in the coming weeks, like more theory videos, speculation videos, any news videos as well. If any big news drops, I'm sure we'll get some more updates in Doctor Who magazine and all that sort of stuff, and then future trailer breakdowns, information breakdowns when we get that in the near future, I'm sure. So yeah, if you're interested, if you want to see more of me in the future, I normally do sound a lot better than this. It's just unfortunately I'm battling a bit of a cold at the moment. I've still got it, so I do apologise if my voice sounds a bit off in this video. Hopefully it'll be back to normal very soon and this cold will be gone. But yeah, any new subscribers, as always, is super appreciated. Okay, so at number 5, starting off with the most unlikeliest option in my opinion, and that would be the Master. The reason I hope this is the unlikeliest is because, for starters, it would just be way too obvious it could be the Master. If anyone was going to know about the Doctor, the TARDIS, and also the Master of Disguise, it would be the Master, but that's just a bit too obvious. It would kind of remind me of Missy being revealed as being inside the vault, because that was just way too obvious of a reveal of who it could be in there. So I hope that they don't go down that route again. Plus, I feel the Master in general just needs a bit of a break. They have been a big part of the last few years, especially in the Peter Capaldi era, and then also in the Jodie Whittaker era as well. Don't get me wrong, the Master is a great character. I love John Sim, Michelle Gomez, and also Sacha Dhawan in the role, don't get me wrong. However, they are not the only Time Lord villain, the only Time Lord character, the only person who knows the Doctor from the past to focus on. There are other characters out there I would rather explore at this stage. So yeah, at number 5, the most unlikely option in my opinion would be the Master. Next up, at number 4, this is a bit of a crazy theory I've seen going around. It's very creative, and that is, what if Mrs. Flood is actually Ruby from the future? Which kind of reminds me of Last Christmas, where there was some timey-wimey going-ons where the Doctor ended up meeting Clara from the future as an older lady. And yeah, what if Mrs. Flood actually turns out to actually be Ruby? What if this is Ruby in the future when she's older? This is her settled down back on the street where she grew up, and she is just watching events in the past unfold, and maybe something in the future happens with time going wrong, and maybe Ruby now has to fix the timeline in the past, and perhaps that's why we see Ruby kind of getting herself in the past to enter the Doctor's TARDIS. I do think as a whole this theory is unlikely, just because it's a bit too timey-wimey for its own good really, but it is a creative theory, and at the end of the day this is still Doctor Who, and anything, absolutely anything, is possible. Number 3 is simply, what if Mrs. Flood is just a new character? She doesn't have to be a returning character from the past. I would say that's more likely because she knows about the TARDIS, but she could just simply be someone who's either, maybe she just knows about Time Lord culture in general, or maybe they are a Time Lord who we've just never met before. They could possibly be the one who waits, because we saw back in the Giggle, the Toymaker mentioned that someone he would never go up against is someone who he mentioned as the one who waits. And that could be Mrs. Flood herself, because in this episode, she is sort of just kind of like waiting around in the background. So maybe that will come to something in the future. And yeah, maybe it'll just turn out, this might sound bizarre to us Doctor Who fans, but she doesn't have to necessarily be someone we already know about. She could just simply be a brand new villain for a brand new generation of fans. And yeah, that is definitely a very possible route they could go down. At number 2, and this is on the other end of the spectrum really, and this would be, what if Mrs. Flood is a huge return to the show, and this is actually the return of the Doctor's granddaughter, Susan Foreman. Now, I'll be honest here, this might be more of a hope theory from myself and lots of other people who have speculated on this, because as I said with the 60th anniversary, quite a lot on the run up to the specials, I really wanted to see Susan return to the show. And Russell has made hints over the last year that he might possibly be looking into it for the future. And this would really be the perfect opportunity to do so, because we know that Mrs. Flood, it looks like they do have some knowledge about the Doctor. They are the one who basically influenced Ruby to enter the TARDIS. If it wasn't for her, Ruby probably wouldn't have known the Doctor was even in there. They know what a TARDIS is. So yeah, what if Mrs. Flood is actually the return of Susan Foreman? Now, there would be some very big questions here indeed. Why is Susan now Mrs. Flood, another character? Why is she disguised in the first place? And also, why is she not just meeting the Doctor? Why is she hiding it? But there could be something going on in the background that we learn about throughout the new series, and then it leads up to a big grand reveal that Mrs. Flood is actually the Doctor's granddaughter. And I would love this to be true, because it is way overdue. I've said this so many times in the past. It is so overdue that the Doctor's granddaughter has not returned to Doctor Who, because they are a very beloved Doctor Who character from the very beginning of the show. Herself and the first Doctor had a great relationship together. Sure, maybe Susan Foreman wasn't the strongest developed character ever, because it was the 1960s, and actress Carole Ann Ford herself has said the material wasn't the strongest, the bestest at the time. But this would be time to make amends to that. And yeah, this would be such a sweet moment for the show, having a big reunion between the 15th Doctor, Ncuti Gatwa, and his own family. We hardly ever see that happen in the show, where the Doctor is reunited from someone who they are actually related to. And yet, I would love it to be the case, and I would love this to be true. It probably is more unlikely, because like I said, it doesn't have much explanation why Susan is hiding as Mrs. Flood, but you never know, it is an option. Quickly, before we move on to the final one, and the option that I think is the most likely for who is Mrs. Flood, and this is just a little bit of a bonus one, is what if she is the Doctor themselves? Because we saw in the Jodie Whittaker era very, very recently that we have the Timeless Child incarnations, and we saw that exactly happen with Joan Martin's Fugitive Doctor. And because of the Timeless Child storyline, which we also know that Russell is going to be continuing in the future, that it is possible that there are so many incarnations of the Doctor we don't know about, we've never met out there, and it could be the case that Mrs. Flood is the Doctor. People have noticed that her door to her house is blue. That could potentially be a hint itself that it could be a TARDIS. However, as a whole, the reason I'm giving this as a bonus option and not as a really serious one like the others is because I just don't think it'll happen, because it's literally what has just happened in the show. We saw with Fugitive of the Jejune back in series 12, we had the big reveal that Joe Martin's character was actually the Doctor themselves, and I just can't see Russell doing a repeat of that exact same thing for Mrs. Flood. I do think The Timeless Child will be continued, as we saw in The Church of Ruby Road, but I think it will be more like the Time War now. It'll just be something more vague in the background, used to character development for the Doctor, but it won't actually be the main storyline of the show or a big major twist where we see more of the Doctor's hidden memories revealed or anything like that. I don't think that's the route Russell will go down, and that's why I'm giving this as a bonus option and not a really serious option in my opinion. And finally, at number one, in the number one spot, and I feel like most fans will have seen this coming by now, but what if Mrs. Flood is actually going to turn out to be the Rani? This is a hugely anticipated return that fans have been waiting for a very long time. The Rani is an iconic Time Lord villain. They haven't been seen now in a very long time, since Time and the Rani back in the 7th Doctor era with Sylvester McCoy. And yeah, it does feel very much like time for the Rani to return. The Rani is someone who loves to do experiments, so perhaps what they are doing is, we did see in the scene with Mrs. Flood, it does feel like she is the one who is sort of persuading events to go in that way. If it wasn't for Mrs. Flood, Ruby would have likely never entered the TARDIS and met the Doctor again, because she wouldn't know the Doctor was really in there in the first place. It is because Mrs. Flood is there. She is the one who influences events to go that way. So maybe this is because she is the Rani, and this is the Rani doing some sort of experiment, maybe on the Doctor. Maybe she is trying to kind of influence the Doctor's timeline to go in a certain way, or maybe this is some sort of character study she's doing on the Doctor to see what their life is like, or something like that. But yeah, it is about time for the Rani to return, really. If it's not the Rani, I could see it being another iconic Time Lord villain. The other one that comes to mind is the Meddling Monk. This is another Time Lord the Doctor has met, but they haven't met them in a very long time now, since the first Doctor era with William Hartnell. And again, especially with the name, the Meddling Monk, and the fact that Mrs. Flood is meddling around with the events of time here, again, that could be another likely option. But I do find one of them to be the most likeliest here, because that would just make the most sense. The fact that Mrs. Flood knows about the TARDIS, she probably also knows about the Doctor as well. It would just make the most sense for that to be, because they themselves are from Gallifrey. They are from the Doctor's not original home planet anymore, but they are still where from the Doctor grew up. And that could even be for a more interesting return as well, because if the Doctor did meet a fellow Time Lord now, like the Rani or the Meddling Monk, it could be quite interesting to watch, because the Doctor could bring up the fact about the Timeless Child. Maybe they could try and find out more information. Maybe it could be revealed that people on Gallifrey knew the Doctor wasn't originally from there, and it was like an open secret or something like that. There's definitely a more interesting dynamic you can now play around with the idea. So yeah, I do think that's the most likeliest option, that Mrs. Flood will turn out to be a fellow Time Lord, also from Gallifrey as well. Overall, they are my top picks, my top theories for who Mrs. Flood could be revealed as being in the future. We know from the main man himself, Russell T Davies, that Mrs. Flood will be a slow burn throughout the new series, but it does look like it is going to be quite an intriguing mystery to follow, and it will turn out to have a big reveal in the end. If that reveal will be in series 14 itself, season 1, or if it's going to be in another future series, we don't know yet at this stage. But I'm excited to find out who she is, even if it's just a brand new character. As I said earlier, I'm sure it'll work out, because you don't always need it to be a big returning villain or returning character. Sure, with it being a kind of like mystery storyline, it probably will turn out to be someone from the Doctor's past. I feel like that is very likely. But even if it's a new character, as long as they are written well and introduced well, I'm sure it will be a great character for the show, and I'm really excited to see more of Mrs. Flood and find out who she is. But in the comments below, please give me your own thoughts on this. Who do you believe Mrs. Flood is? Let me know your own theories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, as always, give it a thumbs up. It really helps me out with the algorithm and stuff like that. And also subscribe for lots more Doctor Who videos on the channel very soon. I've got lots planned over in the next 5 months as we wait for the brand new series of Doctor Who. A lot more theory videos, speculation, collabs, all that sort of stuff, so stay tuned. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching, take care, and I will see you all next time. Bye for now.